I make this comment here in response to the many brothers and sisters who asked to elaborate on issues of interfaith. Since interfaith is nothing but a canon directed at La ilaha illallah's wala and bara, they have a right to ask that. That's a very good question. Those who attend interfaith or go to programs under the banner and platform of interfaith, those are one of two categories. They're either ignorant people who may love da'wah, but they're ignorant. They love to spread Islam and they think that's the proper way to do it. That's their ideal way of doing it, or one of their ways of doing it. Those are the type of people who should temporarily withdraw from da'wah and the da'wah field and arena and sit back and learn before they misguide and get sins instead of the deeds that they're expecting. We're pro-da'wah. I said it many times. And I said, our life roams around it. I said, convey what you know of ilm. That's true. Solid ilm. No matter how much you know, even if it's a little bit, convey it. We spoke in this class on how to be kind and wise in conveying the da'wah, so you can open the hearts and your message can reach them. But interfaith and da'wah are two opposites. A group of those who promote this and attend these and their platforms, they're Islamically untaught. Their idea of da'wah is a photo shoot, sitting and standing with a priest and a rabbi, and then at the end of the day returning to their wives on a full meal, thinking they've accomplished something big in da'wah. They've accomplished nothing more than getting the title of being total losers as a declaration by Allah from on top of seven skies. قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يَحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. Allah says to the Prophet ﷺ, shall we tell you the greatest of the losers? الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يَحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. They are those whose efforts have been wasted in this life. Their efforts in this life have been wasted, while they thought that they were acquiring good by their deeds. They thought they were doing good deeds and acquiring good deeds, but in reality what they were doing was sins. They're losers. Allah said they're losers. If one doesn't know the difference between da'wah and interfaith, the origin and root and history, there's a history behind it. If one doesn't know that, if he doesn't know how it started in Judaism and how it started in Christianity, and then how in some of the so-called Muslims began to promote it, and who and why and their agenda, it's a history behind it. Then one at the end, then he goes to interfaith and blames you, why you talk about interfaith? That's, I'm doing da'wah. These are true losers. They don't know what they're doing. They're accumulating sins and thinking they're doing something noble, which is da'wah. They're ignorant, and they should withdraw until they learn. And they could never, ask them the history behind it, they could never tell you. The second is the category of those who promote the history and the ideology behind it. The second is those who promote it with knowledge of aspects of it or believers of it. And that's a total, like I say, that's a total belief. Yet they still promote it. These are the ruwaybida and the munafiqeen of this ummah and of our time. They believe in this ideology. They're the ones that help the enemies of Islam stop the spread of the true, real Islam, the Islam. They are seeking a version of Islam that pleases the enemies of Islam, when in fact they are supposed to please Allah. Listen to what Allah says: وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. Never will the Jews, no, it's a verse in the Quran, never will the Jews and Christians be pleased with you. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Allah is telling the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, telling the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, until you follow their religion. So now, if followers of the ideology or faith, of any faith or ideology or religion, they say that Muslim, that preacher, that sheikh, that group, that organization, that's good, they're not Muslims and they say that, that means one of two things. That means either number one, they're liars, they're just saying that. Or number two, if they're truthful, that means that person, that sheikh, that organization is not on the path in the Islam of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because Allah said, وَلَن تَرْضَى وَلَن تَرْضَى. Allah doesn't lie. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. So if they were never be pleased with you, should we join them? The next part of the ayah. What do? Allah keeps giving us guidance. Allah says, قُلْ إِنَّ هُدَى اللَّهِ الْهُدَى. Tell them the guidance, all the guidance, the guidance, the only guidance, the guidance, all the guidance is the guidance of Allah. Don't follow in that. Don't follow in the interfaith and in their footsteps. The guidance, all the guidance is the guidance of Allah. Interfaith is a kufr ideology. Da'wah is the path of our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Comparing between the two is like attempting to compare between apples and oranges. And the oranges being the interfaith and a rotten orange for that fact. قل لا يستوي الخبيث والطيب ولو أعجبك كثرة الخبيث فاتقوا الله يا أولي الألباب لعلكم تفلحون. Never will they be equal. Never will they be equal. They're not equal. The things that are filth, the filth can never be equal to the good. The filth, for example, like interfaith, can never be equal to the good, طيب, like da'wah. وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. The next part of the verse is, even though the abundance of the filth may dazzle you. When you look around, actually that's what scores points for dua today. وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. Even if it dazzles you. Over time, they made out of Mecca a center to call for interfaith. They mask it with this dialogue baloney, but it's really interfaith. I collected and wrote an article on our old site. I don't know what happened to the article. If you remember, I gathered 30 names of 30 ulama in the lands of the Arabian Peninsula who called someone kafir or kufr, who believe or adopt or promote interfaith. There's even a fatwa by the official ulama, Hayat Kibar ulama, considering it kufr. Wallahi, one scholar who the Murji'a attribute themselves to in the lands of Haramain said, whoever calls for interfaith is worse than Jews and Christians. Every main aspect of interfaith is aimed to attack and demolish our aqidah and wala and bara. The purpose of interfaith is to destroy wala and bara. I'm going to be clear with you. Now we have the dua who we call Ruwaybidah. Their ultimate purpose has become to demolish the aqidah of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. They use interfaith as a sneaky way to mask their demolition of wala and bara in the true authentic belief of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Or rather Islam, because Islam is wala and bara is Islam. These Ruwaybidah have made fools out of themselves, even to the kuffar themselves. They're the ones they aim to please. I heard of experts this week, an expert on what they claim radical Islam and terrorism, or what they call terrorism. He said in the West they've been teaching such a diluted form of Islam that it's no longer making sense to the youth, rather it's generating an opposite of what it was intended to do. It's creating jihadists.